Hello, and all welcome to Breaking on the Daily episode 2, where we'll just get right into the headline story, and that is Justice Roberts decided that he was going to side with the Liberals on allowing PA to change the election date from November 3rd to November 6th. Well, actually, he allowed them to take ballots in late 3 days after Election Day, which functionally means that Election Day in Pennsylvania is actually November 6th, not November 3rd, at least for now. And as you have seen in the thumbnail, I think Roberts should be impeached. Now, I think Roberts should have been impeached years ago. This has been my position for a very long time. But this especially just gives me the impetus to really put it out there that this guy should be impeached. Now, I'm more pro-impeachment of justices than most people are, and as a general rule, most people are like, I don't want to impeach for most things, but I think it's an important power of the legislator, and honestly, Roberts is just completely ridiculous. But why I suggest Roberts rather than any of the other three justices that voted for this ridiculous decision is because Roberts would probably result in less of a political backlash than something like, say Breyer or Kagan or Sotomayor or any of those three, because he was appointed by a Republican. So the Democrats aren't going to really have any problems. Well, they would have problems, but not as much of a problem. And at least the people in the Senate wouldn't have as much of a problem with Republicans impeaching Roberts and replacing him with someone else. This is a technique which needs to be more supported among not just conservatives, but just generally. Impeachment is a delegated power of the legislator, a woefully underused power of the legislator that just needs to be used more. And really, this is just another story to add to the iceberg. But beyond that, we go to our second story, and this is the first story in a long time that has actually worried me. And that is from the Daily Mail. China's economy has grown 4.9% as of this quarter. And take this with a grain of salt, of course, because China inflates their numbers. They manipulate their stuff, and this has been the case for a long time. But more worrying than just the straight-up GDP growth, their imports have increased by almost 10%. And this is worrying. China is a big problem, and really, honestly, what we should be focusing on foreign policy on pretty much exclusively in the U.S. They are the number one global threat to us as of right now, as a while, since pretty much the Soviet Union fell, and we should be focusing our efforts there, clearly. But for the economic forecasts, let's balance this out. Once again, this is their numbers are, of course, inflated to at least to a certain extent, but the U.S.'s GDP has jumped by 10%, and that's worrying. But our economy is on the uptick as of recent. We do have better jobs numbers, and we're going to start getting back to our normal GDP, increasing it presumably. And we'll start seeing better numbers there. So we'll have to see and wait on the story. But this is something to look into, definitely. You need to be watching this. You need to be watching at China's economic numbers, even if they are manipulated, even if they are wrong, because China is our greatest global economic threat and global national security threat as well. So we just need to be watching this. On to the next story from OAN. The Senate Judiciary Committee will be voting on sending subpoenas to Twitter and Facebook on October 22nd. This is encouraging, at least to a certain extent. We need to see more action with regard to these big tech oligarchs. I shouldn't call them oligarchs. These big tech, I don't know what to call them. Just big tech, I guess. Because they have been absolutely abusing their Section 230 liability protections for a long time, and this needs to be rectified post-tense. It should have been rectified years ago, but this is a good step in the right direction. I mean, changing it a bit is something else to look out for, along with a lawsuit. I mean, we need to see a lawsuit either from the U.S. government at this point or some other company where we challenge that liability protection that goes to the Supreme Court, as Clarence Thomas has already given us pointers on how to actually argue that, which is a good thing. But anyway, on to our next story from the New York Post. The debate commission will now mute the mics during the final debate between Trump and Biden, and oh my gosh, at this point, I don't know how anyone can honestly argue that any nonpartisan, bipartisan commission on anything is actually nonpartisan or bipartisan. I mean, their actions honestly make more sense if you put either Democrat or if you're feeling a bit more spicy Marxist and replace that with the nonpartisan part of their name. Because honestly, it's just getting ridiculous. You have so many of these commissions that just seem like Democrat think tanks or Democrat-run organizations, and it's just getting ridiculous. I mean, their moderators have been terrible for so long. It's not a new phenomenon where the moderator becomes a debater. I mean, it's happened in 2012, it happened in 2008, it happened all over the place. Like, this keeps happening over and over again, and it just doesn't stop, and really, really needs to. Man, never trust an organization which says it's nonpartisan, because it isn't. It's lying to you, it's selling you something, it's grifting, and that's always something you need to watch out for, because when you see someone say, "Oh, I'm nonpartisan," or "Oh, my organization's bipartisan," that means they're grifting. Anyway, on to the next story from The Blaze. We have Governor Gretchen Whitmer saying, "If you're tired of lockdowns, wearing masks, or if you wish to vote, you were in church this morning, then vote for Joe Biden." Yeah, they seem to be threatening this a lot. I mean, the Democrats' signaling on coronavirus and on lockdowns has been really inconsistent, honestly, because they've been arguing that lockdowns are the only way to solve the problem, while at the same time criticizing the Trump administration for the economic depravity that has occurred over the past year, despite the fact that it was caused by the lockdowns that they support and that they forward as useful tools. And it annoys me to no end that they don't get called out on it enough, honestly. Particularly when they get put up with interviews or in debates even. I mean, Trump and Pence attacked it a bit in the first and second debate, in the first presidential debate, and this first vice presidential debate, but they need to attack it more, and that's pretty much what I'm hoping to see in this next debate, this final debate that we have coming on in the next week, Thursday. That's what I'm hoping to see most if we do actually end up talking about COVID and don't end up talking about foreign policy and Hunter Biden and that kind of thing, which is not looking like we are, because the debate commission has changed the topics to be not based on foreign policy, despite the fact that it's supposed to be a foreign policy debate. It's just ridiculous. A more funny story, though. 50 Cent, a rapper, I don't listen to rap, says he's going to vote for Trump because of Biden's tax plan. This is from page 6. The rapper put on Twitter some expletives where he said he was going to vote for Trump because of the ridiculous over 50% tax rates that would happen under Biden's plan in states like California or New York. And man, the Democrat tax plan is, of course, very insane. I mean, they're going to increase taxes so much. Oh my gosh. It's just an inarguable point at this point. And people don't like having their taxes raised. And, a lot of people are going to be voting on taxes. It's not a superfluous issue, honestly. Taxes are really important. They affect a lot of, your finances, your personal finances, especially if more than 50% of your income is going to the government. It just gets to the point of ridiculousness. But anyway, on to the next story. Cuomo apparently ignored local input during the COVID-19 outbreak. It says, this is from the New York Post, that he was ignoring any input from anything other than hospitals. Essentially, he was focusing entirely on hospitals and ignored input from other things. So And this kind of explains, I think, the nursing home policy in a bit, because it means that he wasn't even taking input from the nursing homes, which are another medical facility that would have a say in how the COVID thing is getting done. And this means that there probably is more to look into with regard to other non-hospital medical facilities with regard to COVID in New York, and this should be looked into more. This is another thing that you should be watching out for, where we see things like local clinics, or just anything that isn't a hospital but still technically a medical facility, maybe pharmacies or something like that. There might be more disastrous policy that came out of New York, and that'd be really bad. I mean, this Cuomo. Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's actually writing a book about his leadership. It's just, oh my gosh. It's got to be the funniest thing in the world. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to inform all of you about the ridiculous things that are said in that book. So watch out for that one. But anyway, to our last story. And this one's from CNN. It's a CNN health story, where, and this one's a bit funny. It's a bit more lighthearted than the stories that we've had thus far. And this is the headline, quote, "You're not nuts. This is a really crazy time. Here's a dozen ways to cope." So CNN is now releasing essentially election preparation articles. They're trying to prepare their readership for the electoral ream job they're going to get in a few weeks. So have fun with that. They're telling people to like meditate and crap. Oh my god. And it really shows the fragile state of their mental capacity. If they really if you're taking this year as the worst ever, and oh, it's a terrible year specifically for me because of what's happened in the news. I mean, this has been something that has been annoying me for a bit, pretty much this entire year, and that is people have absolutely tied their opinion of the year based on the national news or even the international news. It is just completely ridiculous, because honestly, this year has been pretty good, at least for me. On a personal level, been great. And in terms of a national news cycle level, it really isn't that bad. I mean, global pandemic, yeah, but a lot of things have been overblown. Everything pretty much has been overblown in this climate, and it's caused a lot of people in their personal lives to feel a lot worse. And I think that's the biggest takeaway to have from this year, and that is, don't tie your feelings about a year to the national story. Don't tie it to other people. You need to really think about what happened to you this year. And a lot of people have a lot to be grateful for this year. I have a lot to be grateful for this year. I've improved a whole lot personally in my personal life. I've improved myself. And I think it's just something to look out for, especially as we come to the end of October, we start getting into Thanksgiving season. You really need to think about what you're thankful for, and that's what I'm going to leave you with. Just stay out there and think about what you're grateful for, and that's it. So I'll see ya. I'm out.